Hello. I want to welcome you to my studio this afternoon, and it's a steamy afternoon for all of us, but I want to tell you where I am, and I know where you are. I'm hoping that many of you are enjoying some wine and some nibbles. It'll be sort of like a gallery opening, but mostly it's going to be a very relaxed, easygoing kind of walkthrough of a studio space that's 200 steps outside of the garage door at Cityside. So if you're over there, I'm hoping you're going to come over here very soon in the next couple of weeks or so and visit live or more live by coming in and seeing what I do have here and what I do. I am so thrilled to be able to show you this without a huge opening, because I was thrilled when I found this place at Renaissance Plaza and Storage. And the beauty about this studio is I just am so close to home that I can spend most of my time over here. And this is the season. This is the season. We're all looking for spaces and places. And I really want to share some of the joyful parts that I have by coming over here every day. And we'll be walking through and talking about it, and I'll be able to show you all about it. So sit back, but also ask me questions if you have questions anytime. I get real excited about the work I do and the work that I have surrounding me here in the entryway. If you come in here and walk through this at any time, you'll kind of begin to sense what the process is and how I've developed this in this virus space and time. We call this liminal time. And so liminal time is actually in between time. It's an old word in the English language, not used much, and all of a sudden it's everywhere. It's in all kinds of studies and literature and writing and talking. So this series that I'm doing is in liminal space. And so all of the titles will be kind of included in that kind of concept. And that's what I love. For me, a studio is all about just having a space where you can think, where you can research, where you can try things out, and mostly creatively play. And that's exactly what I need. My cats like to play over there at Cityside, but for me, this is really a joyful world. So I want to tell you that I have lots of people to thank on this, Cityside completely, but Sylvie is going to be the person following me around so that I can kind of point out and invite you into the studio and also show you the process within the hour that I want to share for today. And I think you're going to enjoy it. And mostly you're not going to be over here in the heat kind of steaming with the two of us. But Sylvie, thank you. You're a big help to all of us. Yeah. Okay, I think we should just get going here. And we're just drinking sparkling water. You guys have all the fun. All right. This of course is my entry. You can see out, but it's just around the corner. So we'll go on into my studio and I'll show you what a strange studio it truly is. Most people have big working spaces. Mine is a lot of my artwork that's stored and classified. And then I have little spaces for doing my work as a printmaker, as an encaustic artist, and for doing these paper inclusions right now. But I do have a couple of printing presses here, and I'm going to show you those and point them out to you, but I'm going to show you this pile of what I have done since the virus has kind of put us all into quiet time. And that's right over here. This is a process I developed when I came down here to Florida, and I was out on Anna Maria Island, because I wanted something that was going to bring a little Florida into my artwork. A lot of my work is very dark, very northern, and very kind of magically mysterious. But I think in this gorgeous environment, we've got to have a little more of Florida. So I started boiling plant material inside of paper, and I will walk you through that today. And then I can use it in my prints. I can use it in my beeswax and caustic combinations, or I can just use it as these paper inclusions. So let me show you here what I've got as a gift from Grace Howell, who was changing her work environments. And she said, Zerbe, you're the printmaker. Will you like this press? And I was thrilled, because I just have another little miniature press, and this is really a big help. When I started doing those inclusions, I was doing them on Christmas envelopes and stationery, and trying to figure out a process that just grew and grew and grew. And of course, I like big art, and sometimes very big art. And for me, it was really nice to start to come up with strategies for unfolding paper and building it back so that I can get bigger spaces in my artwork. Printmaking involves a lot of different techniques. Right now, I'm using little plastic plates and tools. I used to use a lot of old linoleum, and friends of mine would say, oh, I'm just tearing a house apart, Zerbe, come over and get this linoleum. And then I would go and incise into it and roll it up and print on it. And a lot of my early rock strata work was made on linoleum, and I brought it through presses. But I only brought down a little tiny press, and we'll go around the corner here, Sylvie, so I can show you that. But this is all of my storage stuff, and where I keep all of my cast handmade paperwork. But anytime that you would like to come over and learn about any of these processes or see the work I have, please, I invite you. And that's what this whole hour is about, is a big invitation to have you come over here. Here's another, my little miniature press out of Seattle, Washington. When they make big printing presses, that's the only time they will actually fabricate one of these. And so I've always loved this little press, but it's with the two presses, I'm going to kind of arrange the studio a little differently, and that way I'll have a whole working space for printmaking again, and I'll be happy about that. We can come out here, because this is really why my studio is around the corner from where I live. Come on out, I'll show you. And it is steamy out here, I guarantee. This is my courtyard, and I have to say it's mine, because it's nobody else wanted to claim it. It had lots and lots of weeds, and that's about all. Kind of sickly lime tree and an African orchid tree, and that was really what I had to work with. But I decided if I kind of hugged this area and did all my melted wax work out here, this would be healthier for me than being inside. And I'll show you what that involves. I'm going to throw on an apron, because we're going to get a little, maybe you're not going to get messy sitting there with your wines, but I might get messier. This is my, the kinds of things I use, the tools I use, an old heat gun, Grettles that you can just heat up and then melt crayons and wax, and then you can lay your paper into that and create kind of a monoprint effect or a painting in it. I use these, when you turn off anything that has wax in it, you won't be able to get your brushes out until you heat it up again. So I just leave my waxes in, and most people that do encaustic work, that's what they do. They just leave lots of brushes in it, heat it back up, and then they continue to paint. So you can use all kinds of colors. These are all just oranges, various brands and types. Oil and beeswax are the lots of companies, wonderful companies, make these products. They're not real inexpensive, but professional art materials are a little more. But then they don't run down the wall or fall off your canvases either. So when you're doing encaustics, you paint a layer of wax over your surface, and then you have to use your heat gun and heat up the whole surface until it's liquid, and then let it dry. And then you can carve into it, you can scrape into it, you can add more colors into it. And then once you do that, you add another layer of wax, and then you heat gun it again. So you build and build and build and build with your waxes. And what I do is I've been incorporating these inclusions that I'm getting from the neighborhood of plants. And once I do that, then I can wax these and start building those layers. And I guess if anything, I'm really about layers and textures and environmental materials. So come out here, because we are steamy out here, but I'll get you out of this corner, Sylvie. This is where I do my artwork, and it's fine that it's wet today because I wiped it off once, but I think the trees are still dripping a little. This is what I'm going to be talking about, are these packages of plant material that are in paper. And I'm going to show you first how I have a paper that I fold up, and then the kind of materials I put into it. Then we'll come back and we'll unwrap one of these little presents. This is a package of paper with plant material, rusty items, other things found on the street right here in Sarasota. I keep it only in the neighborhood. If you see me out there in that bag around my shoulder and scissors in my hands, you don't have to run. I'm really looking for just small clippings of things. But come over here and I'll show you what's here. These are the kinds of things that I use eclectically, and I stick this into my paper pages. Things like these ferns that grow around our building with all the, the seeds and things, the vines I can stick in. I snip off small parts and lay them out, and then I have these stringy parts and lines in my artwork. I sometimes take roots and use those. I use pods, and also I use silly things like Legos and puzzles. Now they're wet, but I stick these in, and sometimes Mardi Gras beads and tea bags. I use a lot of tea bags. They just give me, when I take them out and put those in a piece of paper, they just give me a spot of color. And it's kind of interesting because when the paper dries, then you have these reds or greens or yellows, and from the different herbal teas. Sometimes I use circular tea bags. A friend of mine from Rochester suggested doing that, and I thought, well, that's a good idea. When she was down here, she got inspired with circles. I have things like bottle caps, rusty pieces of all kinds of debris. But, in Sarasota, it's such a clean city. It's hard to find rusty things on the street. So I have everybody looking for me, and everybody's trying to bring me these little treats of things that they find, and I love it. And so I tuck those into paper, But I'm going to go back to this table and I'll show you how the paper is folded so I can get it into one of my little cooking pots. Grab this paper over here. This isn't anything. Just try a paper towel here for a second. This isn't anything real serious, but you have to know the diameter of your pot, and then you have to make sure that what you put in the pot for your package is going to fit. So if you take a piece of paper, you just fold it in half and maybe fold it in half again or in thirds and fold it up. So as I use good rag paper, it might even be like a French paper, might be, I could pay for a big piece like $12 or so for the sheet. But then you can use a bone folder or a brush handle or anything else, and you just fold it up. And usually I'm just trying to think of making several pieces the same size. So I will fold it and then refold it and make sure that I fold it kind of both ways because I don't know which way I'm going to fit that plant material in. And this goes real fast, but then you, again, looks like these will be similar. Once you get this folded, then you're ready to go. This particular paper is for wood cuts, and I haven't actually used this yet, but I thought this would be a good time to show you how I build this. You spread it all out. I do this in the early morning in the summer because it gets warm out here. But then I start just placing small items.
And Melissa Klein says that she loves your courtyard. She wants to come hide in your oasis.
I want you to come, Melissa. I want everybody to come over here. You can come, bring your book, bring your mask or not. Outside here, it's absolutely wonderful.
It is gorgeous.
And anybody is really dying to be gardening, be my guest. My brother-in-law and my nephew decided to put down some patio just tiles so that I'm not standing in mud all the time. And that's very good. When I get 4 pieces of things into an area, I don't mean 4 pieces, but 4 spaces covered, then I just can fold up those rapidly into the next area. And then you just start building and putting more things, and you get fats. It's like a deli sandwich is all I can think to describe it. But I'm not going to have you suffer through my building this stuff. I use lots of funny materials. You guys may think of some other new things to stick in. Puzzle pieces are good. Lots of little plastic ideas work, but I really like the rusty items. Those, they leave really nice rust marks. But here's my magic product. What I've done was I've put a couple of sheets of paper. These are larger ones, but I've tied them. This time I've tied them with, of all things, pipe cleaners. I've tried wire, but a lot of times it cuts the paper a little bit. This might too, but these are certainly not overly valued, so I can just cut them easily. I get tile that I get over at the Restore, a box of those, and I put a tile on the top and bottom, and that way you have a little pressure, a little pressing when it's boiling in the pot. So we need to take a look at what's in this piece. Sometimes if it's real mucky, I will I use gloves. my hands are dirty enough today that I'm not too concerned. But I take this sheet and carefully, because it's just come out of the pot, it's kind of vulnerable at this point in time. It's something that could rip, could cause problems. But as you can see, there it almost gets a metallic sheen into it. But I unfold this, and then can we capture that? I'm hoping we can. Then see all my fibers slide and slip around, but they just come up with this most miraculous imprint. And I use chemistry in my water, but nothing other than just an acidic liquid vinegar with water. And then I just boil it forever. I boil it for many hours, which means I have to come over here and check on it if it's late at night, or turn it off or pull it out of the pot. And so, but this is what excites me in printmaking when I'm pulling a piece of paper off of the press bed. This excites me in encaustics when I can build up layers with colors. And when I do this, I just get so excited with this inclusive materials. I never know what leaves, what pods are really going to leave the best impressions. Here's a piece of plastic, and you can see it leaves these little crisscross marks. This was over in Gillespie's Park. I stole a few of these little pods. I'm curious. These, you'll see me all the time across the street from City Side collecting these by an evergreen tree, because they have a really nice marking that they do. I use these skewers to kind of pull this stuff off so that I can kind of get it away without over rubbing it.
And they'd like to know, how long do you let it set for? Like when it's cooking, I guess.
Oh, I can, if I have a really good rag content paper that's tough, like a printmaking paper, I can do this for up to 10 hours.
Okay. How long did this one take?
I did this in 2 parts. I did 4 hours, and then I came back and did 6 more.
Oh, wow.
I just wasn't sure, and I thought, well, if it didn't have a real good impression, you guys would wonder what in the world I do over here in this courtyard all day long. But I think this is going to be a really successful one. This was I believe this was a buff colored paper. Now see, here's my world. I just don't quit. I'm very compulsive about this. Tea bags and metals. I separate out the metals, then I put them back in these trays that I have on the side, and I will re-spritz them with a solution to make rust. And so I can always make more rust on metal once I get it. But these, I think when Cassidy was talking and sharing some of her artwork, she was talking about some of the wonderful sea grape leaves and things she was finding. And I have this tree up here, this orchid tree, and it provides such wonderful, beautiful shaped leaves. I just feel like this courtyard was meant to be. I really needed this courtyard, and I was so thrilled when I moved in here. So this is coming off pretty easily and pretty well, because I do it in 2 pots. So I usually do about 4 sheets at a time, 2 in each pot. It takes me a while to get this stuff all stuffed and then wired or tied shut. So I will do one in a day, and then I'll let it dry for a day or 2. And then I'll be ready to go out in the neighborhood and ransack all of the foliage. I just take tiny bits. I'm not too greedy. The thing that I found is that it's important to really have fresh plant material, that's really growing and healthy. I stick pods in because under pressure, they create a form, and and they kind of subtly come through. And that was something I kind of figured out over time, that some things you don't have to get the photosynthesis side of it. And I don't know, I'm not a chemist, so I don't know exactly what all is happening. I'm not a scientist, but I find in time, I'm just more and more curious about it. It doesn't get boring, it doesn't get less interesting. And so if you want to come over and play with me anytime, I'm happy to have you come over and make some pieces, whether they're small pieces or larger. But it's you can make pieces that then you can paint back into, you can print into, you can draw into. You could take plain paper and draw on it, and then start folding it and building these areas. I found that by folding the paper, for me, it gives me a structure, and I love that against the kind of freeness of the foliage and what happens. So I think those folds, at least with my aesthetic, it really works for me. So so then this is as I said, it's not, it's wet. So I will plop this over on another table. We'll take a peek at just one more and see what I get. Some pieces I have, I've put in a different chemistry. And in fact, Jackie over at Cityside came over here when I did my first test and unfolded this wonderful big sheet, and it was almost nothing on it. It just kind of washed out. I was using different chemistry. I was working with ammonia. These are chemicals, though, that evaporate, and they are not harmful. So I feel like it makes it okay to use this in my work and with the paper, because I have a whole background in handmade paper making. I'm pretty aware of the fact that these are not going to disintegrate as pieces. Let's see, now here are these big pods I get over there on 5th Street, and these pods come off of this tree, and I start relating to where I get a few of these things, and it's truly within 6 blocks of here, I get almost everything. My friend Leslie Butterfield has brought me things that she's collected while kayaking out in the water. We've tried a few of those kinds of approaches, but they don't tend to make a lot of strong marks. But for some reason, this is getting a lot of metallic look to it, because I also throw in, I'm making a soup in those big pots.
Mm-hmm.
I throw in a bunch of little rusty parts. I got rust off of that that anchor over there at Bayside. And I find sometimes a fire hydrant that's falling apart, and then it has lots of rust. So I'll throw in some of that. I might throw a couple rocks into it. I figure it's kind of like stone soup, whatever. Try it, see if it works. This is just off of a lime or a lemon bag. And sometimes I put those in because it kind of not only offers a grid, but it also kind of holds everything in place a little better. I probably should anchor more things so they don't slip and slide as much as they do. But imagine my surprise when I saw how people could do an imprint of a leaf by boiling it to make stationery, and then start building on that concept and find, oh, yeah, this is my printmaking mentality coming through again. This is something I really like a lot. And you see the Legos, what happens to the Legos? I buy these at the dollar store. And then the boiling it for 10 hours, you can imagine, you don't boil a lot of your plastic toys. But because it's outside, I can do this and I can play creatively. I don't want to overstructure my thinking, as long as I don't get into any dangerous concerns. And it's the same with printmaking or encaustics. You want to be careful and regard not only the environment, but your own healthy environment of your body, because you don't want to get sick from this stuff. So this is where I play, and this is how I play. My influence of mangroves and all of these viney things really helped me to, in an abstract way, capture a little of Florida. But see, I must still be a northern girl, because it's, at least when it's very wet, it still looks pretty dark. But I can go back in with encaustic waxes, lighten things up, add paint to it. I find this my magical solution for starting out. And in some cases, this is where I want to end the process, because I'm very happy with what I get. If I want to add some color or take away some of it, I can. And sometimes this will happen. I'll have used a binder on it that has kind of cut through. It's not a problem. I have all kinds of mending archival tapes and glues, and I can, as it dries, it'll kind of swell up and it lies flat, and I can put it all right back together. So you can see here, and you probably can see it almost better than I can out here, but some of these leaves will have color, not all of them, by any stretch of the imagination. Just the ones you think are really going to be green or really offer something may or may not. But then I start scrapbooking them so that I know next time when I see that leaf over by the school or down the street, I know that that would be a good one to pull out and to use. So it has a lot of energy, a lot of things happening with these. I love things like the ferns. They almost have a skeletal look to them, you know, almost human or animal skeletal look. And I love some of these effects that happen. Do I really look at this mess on the table and say, oh, I want this? I don't. Some of you might come over here and build very realistic or illustrational kinds of directions. But for me, I love the freeness of this. I love the abstract environment that it creates within this grid. And and some of my papers are quite large and they get a little more unwieldy. So I didn't share those, working with those, but what do these really look like? To me, a lot like the paper in Hawaii, the tapa papers, a lot like fabric. If you're a fabric, maybe Meg should be making masks out of these, you know, I don't know. But see, this is it. And as it dries, it'll get a little lighter, but more interesting and more detailed, more contrast. And then I have the other side. And it was pointed out to me last week or a week before that, gee, Zerbe, you know, if somebody bought a piece of this and you had it in a frame, if you wanted to change out your look, you would just, if you had them on magnets or on pins, you could just turn it around and you would have a whole new piece of art, two for one.
Yeah.
But lots of times, one side seems a little more successful or a little more attractive to me than the others. But probably all of you there drinking your wine, relaxing, hanging out, think I'm really silly to be so excited about this kind of work, but I absolutely love it. I can't get enough of it. I don't know if after this virus I'm going to quit on these. But I know that right now it's giving me that quiet time to kind of figure this out to work on the scale and the kinds of things to put into this. And I keep coming up with new things, and I welcome anybody's ideas on what to put into these paper pieces. But they can't be very thick, and they can't be very sharp edged. So if I use a bottle cap, I usually hammer it down so it's a flat surface before using it so it doesn't cut through the paper. But
So Marge, there's Jan says, love you, Zerbe. Glad to see your courtyard, sister of mine. And Marge said, Zerbe, will you keep it as one size?
I keep some as one size. Some of them I cut off and put on panels and start to build them into another phase of, as a printmaker and as with encaustic wax. I can start building this, and by the time I get through with this kind of a piece or on a panel, I might have 10, 15, 20 layers of wax on it. It takes a real distinct personality type, I think, compulsive, to really like to work that way. But I do. I love to build up wax and wax and wax. And then you can sand it and make it shiny. You don't have to really use a lot of varnishes and things on it, but you can just buff it up and polish it with silk cloth and things. There are lots of techniques.
Yeah, it looks totally different.
Really, make it totally different. So I can cut it up for sure. I can make little miniatures. I can cut up this and run it through my printing presses. Mm-hmm. So all of my work actually kind of overlaps in terms of process, but the process is what I love. That's what holds me, gets me really, it's meditative, gets me really intrigued, and just the magic. Where is this going? And I don't try to overpower any of it. I just let it happen. So anytime you're coming by on Boulevard of the Arts and you want to stop in, if my door is open, the lights are on, come on back, because I'm probably back in this area. I do most of my artwork right back here. Even when I'm on plastic plates, incising it with plastic so I can ink it for my printing presses, I sit out here and do that more than inside, because that's just a place for me. But this is a world, and I can greet those Renaissance plaza cats that you see all the time. And I have two that think they own this place, and they're glad I occasionally come through. So that's about how that is.
Marge also said, I have so much more respect for the pieces I have of yours. Oh. And Karen, what is the name of the type of art? So is there a name for this?
This would be like, this would technically, I think, be a collage on paper, because you're collaging materials and you're putting them together. I mean, I'm kind of slamming them together at times and folding them into things. But really, it's just a matter of building a composition and folding it. So it's almost like you could probably do some fancy paper folding in it to get different forms. But that's what I think it is. It's just a collage. But in printmaking, you can make a lot of plates with the collage. This isn't the substrate, though, really. This is the actual results. So.
And Jackie said, love to see the passionate true artist. Thank you for sharing your space.
Oh, that's great.
And Melissa said she agreed.
Well, and please come by and see me. And I always have lots of packages to unwrap. I'll let you help me do that. But I'll even give you gloves. So, but I wash my hands so much. I really do a fine job of washing and keeping clean from what we're all recommended for viruses. So I feel like that works when you're out here in messiness.
Did you want to go back inside?
I do want to go back because it's very warm out here still and sticky. But let's go back the way we came. Not quite as darkish. Sylvia, you're wonderful being patient at
Oh, I love it.
doing this. And see, lots of these are little pieces. Marge asked about how little many of my pieces are tiny. And sometimes I've had people build with several of them, and that kind of brings up something I want to talk about in a minute here, in the last few minutes. But my friend Teresa, her husband is a chemist, so he got me into trying some different solutions. But when you do ammonia, this is the kind of look you get, and it's so contrasted to this because one is vinegar and one is a base. And so I think there's a world of things to explore with all this. And as I've always said, and I genuinely mean this, until I do 100 pieces of something, whether it's digital work in Photoshop or whether it's on the printing press or in this crazy paper stuff, I don't feel like I really am in control of it. I'm not sure if I really ever am. My work is kind of spiritual to me, and I feel like somebody's in charge, and I'm not sure it's me at all. But different papers get you very different, experiences with them. And this is no color in it. This is just the chemistry as it comes out. So.
And these you did all during COVID, right? This whole pile?
I haven't counted them all, and then I did all those little ones as well. But I have several. So anybody that wants to come and look through these, I really, they're like my children. They're just something I really enjoy and like to anticipate, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to draw into this and kind of do mapping into it? I mean, you could really redefine the structures of the plant material. So it's really has a lot of potential. But I've got some projects in the future, and one quick one I want to share is a project that my friend Leslie Butterfield and this poet friend of mine, Teresa Carson, husband's the chemist, Teresa and Leslie came up with an idea to do art in common places. And they asked me if I would do a piece for them. And what it is, it's a collaboration between a poet and an artist. And if you are accepted into this project this year, you can be the artist or you could be the poet. But then one of them have to live in Sarasota. In the end, we'll have an art exhibit with the actual original pieces. And this was my original piece to a beautiful poem from an amazing poet, actually no longer living, but Jack Weiler was a dear friend of Teresa's. And she said, Zerbe, I really think you would really like Jack Weiler's work. They did a lot of poetry readings together and things. And I just thought I would read them and see what they were like. I just fell in love with them. I think Jack is a muse of mine. I think he's hanging around here, and I talk to him and his ideas, and he's really just terrific. But if you go down the streets, you're going to see postcards in a packet and broadsides, which they look like a poster, but they're beautifully designed, high quality paper. And the art in commonplace is put in possibly a library, but more like a bicycle shop or a grocery store or any place on the street. And I have two, one is mine outside here, but they're going to be distributed all over by friends that are finding good and surprising places. These uncommon places is what's going to make this a very exciting collaborative show. And it'll end in a big art and show with the best part, I think, will be the readings that go along with that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it will really, really, truly be fun. But I love poetry, and so that really struck a strong nerve for me that you combine the words and the visuals
Mhm.
together. Now, I did a lot of work at Cityside, and for the show we had at Holiday Time last year, and that was fun. About 6 of us from Cityside got involved in that, and I'm hoping Cityside will do more of that kind of sales for people, because it's nice to be supported, and it's nice to support other artists for sure.
Mhm.
So any last questions? How are we on time? You're holding the machine.
45 minutes. And yeah, any other questions, send them. I'll make sure Zerbe sees them.
I'm going to keep my door open and my lights on as much as possible. So if you're out and about, please come by. We have the broadside to this project and the postcards over in that at the counter by
In the mail room.
In the mail room.
Yep.
And so please take a look at that if you're over getting your mail. And our mail carrier always comes in here because she delivers mail here as well. So she's always checking out what's going on in here. But please come. And I've done a lot of fundraisers where I've offered a day working here in the studio. And it's been something that's gone into a lot of fundraiser baskets and things. And that way people have an opportunity to come and do something a little different than they might just having a bottle of wine.
Marge said the pieces framed, are they all made of wax?
Are the pieces that are framed?
Yeah, the pieces framed, are they all made of wax?
No, some are just prints. Some are just on a printing press. Well, actually, no, this one actually has a little wax, but very little wax on it. But I do straight prints. I do prints with encaustics, both. And I do digital art, and this is just small digital landscapes of mine. So
Karen said you're going to need more space.
I'm just going to need a lot of fire sales,
Yeah.
a lot of streets, sidewalk sales. And if you find something over here that you'd like to try out in your house and see if you like it, that's great too. And then we can see if there's something that you'd like to put together. I'm doing a piece for a seafood restaurant in Palmetto right now. And so it's long and colorful. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, let's see
backed
that.
it with cheesecloth. And so it's, I just tacked it up to get it out so I can show my other papers there. But I'm just adding a little more substantial parts to this. It has an actual Charleston, South Carolina part of a net, which also that piece has. But this one, when I cut this all off, I think it's going to be a fun piece for over a bar. And it's going to, I think, be finished this next week. So there's always projects going on. And I've done a lot of installation work over the years. And so it's kind of nice to have flat work that I know where it's going. But these are a few of these pieces here were cast in paper and just done as kind of abstract pieces. So I've got many of them. I have lots of large pieces in dining rooms and living rooms and things of friends of ours. And so it's, I can work real small, but I kind of love that big size. When you're only 5 foot tall, you like that. So I thank you for putting up with me for an hour. I wasn't sure how this was going to go because I thought, well, we'll have to see. if people really have questions about this. But see, you can see, I need a little repair, but I love both sides of the paper. And you know, it's interesting what comes up, and the fact that it's all growing right here in our yards and up and down the streets here. And so it's fun collecting it, but the day I collect it is the day I put it in paper. You know, I don't wait because it has to be fresh.
Yeah, Melissa mentioned it's a new way of recycle, a good way to recycle.
It is. I feel like it's a recycled, repurposed kind of expression of environmental concerns. And the environment and the sustainability of environments is something I'm keenly interested in, always interested in. So would love to talk to anybody about it. I've had great people stop in from Cityside that have offered some suggestions. Peg and Barry I brought over here to say, well, what would you do with this? Would you frame it? Would you put it under glass? Would you? So we talked a lot about very contemporary ways to just display it, either on magnets or just floating or in a frame box with no glass or anything, just the integrity of the piece. And then it's fine to do that because actually the moisture might change slightly, but in our air-conditioned environments, it's really quite legitimate to put paper in that way. So I guess that's about it for us, but I want to see you back over here, all of you, and come visit me for sure. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.